Whoa. What's the illusion? Reporting from somewhere on spaceship Earth. What's going on, everybody? It is, we made it. We made it. It's another edition of Sober Wednesday, dude. What's going on? Sober Wednesday in the house, dude. What's going on? Dan Z and Sigma GoPro Kid, Utah says hello, dude. Thank you, GoPro Kid. Yes. I can't even say your name, but what up, dude? Sketty 909. Sketty 09. Yeah, what's going on, dude? Good evening, good surf SF Flatto, dude. Aina Shabab, cheers, dude. Korea Group, been watching for years, man. Much love, right back at you. Section 9. Section 9, dude. All right, man. We're here for another edition of Sober Wednesday, dude. We made it. Made it to another one, dude. All right. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. 88, thank you. Yeah, Sober Wednesday, dude. We made it one. I was like, so we drove down to Los Angeles yesterday, do some business down there, and it's always funny. It's always funny to go mix it up with the grid, dude. With the grid is on full tilt boogie, and the grid's madness, dude. But it's funny. I was. The ability to cope with the madness is a good thing. Anyway, I don't know, that maybe that was for a different stream. I don't know, dude. So we're here on Sober Wednesday. I should probably read something, dude. This is a stream dedicated to the solution, which is spiritual in its very nature, to the problems that we all face. And those of us who are lucky enough to have problems can find solutions. The people that are true, I think this is what I was going to bring up about the city thing is, you're sitting in traffic because we hit the 405 101 interchange at like 8:00 a.m. And you get to really see what it looks like with people that don't even acknowledge that there's a problem. They're just sitting in traffic, man. Just sitting in traffic. And for those of us who have a problem, though it may be overwhelming and we may not think there is a solution, there most definitely is a solution. And it is finding a spiritual. Sober is the new high. Yes, indeed, dude. Sober is the new high. Absolutely, dude. It's well, that's what I always said is sobriety's the ultimate bong hit, man. So anyway, like I think what I was getting at was I was praying this morning. I've been definitely praying, and I pray in the post-trauma solution oriented prayer, which I was taught a long time ago, was you don't pray to have the problem solved. You pray in thanks of the journey of overcoming the problem, right? You pray from the point of view of the problem has already been solved and you're grateful for the journey that you went on to overcome the problem, right? And I think that's I've been looking at I think even my pastor was talking about the other day is it's through the problem that we get to find grace. And for many of us, our problem isn't what we're addicted to. That is just that has been a temporary solution to our real problem. And our problem is the dysfunction of dealing with this insane world, dude. Insane. Like if you had asked me once, like, I don't know, like I live up here in the sticks, right? Like I was sitting at the 101, 405 interchange in bumper to bumper traffic, and it doesn't bother me. Not because it doesn't suck, but because I don't have to live like that anymore. It is strictly like a novelty to be in that like headspace that it is even a problem. Like I think that the gift that sobriety gives me is that if I can tune my mind in the proper way, I can sit with the problem, which is ultimately the solution to get through the problem, right? So when I think about it, I have to remember how fortunate I am to have the problem, because the opposite of the problem is the solution, right? And sometimes, so let me read this, and I think I kind of know where I'm going with all this now. All right. All right. I'm going to read the promises, page 83 of the big book, Alcoholics Anonymous. This is not an AA meeting, not affiliated with AA in any way, but I generally find that this book has some solutions for those of you who are willing to find solutions, right? And there's a lot of solutions out there. But anyway, here we go. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we've gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Life's a trip, man. Life's a trip. Like back to what I was thinking about there, or talking about. When I was loaded, drinking, smoking weed, sniffing cocaine, taking pills, doing whatever it is, I didn't really have any problems. That was the interesting part about it. Like if I look back upon it and think about it now, like I didn't really have any problems. I didn't have any real debt. I didn't really have anything going on. I didn't have anything. I just was sort of floating through life, man. And because I didn't have any like problems, and I really didn't, like, if I think about it, like on paper, like I didn't have any like real legal troubles. I didn't owe anybody anything. I showed up for work. I ate, had gas in my tank, had a surfboard, had a skateboard. And on paper, it probably looked like I was leading a pretty like some sort of weird alternative life, man. You know, they glorify the life I have now. It's called van life. I was way ahead of the curve on that one. But what I'm getting at is I didn't have any problems, but I was definitely miserable. You know? The character that I had become, Hiroshima Nagasaki, right, was angry at the world, right? Angry at war with 8 billion people. I think there were 7.5 billion at the time, maybe 7 billion. I don't know. But I was at war with the people. That wasn't a problem either, dude. Like I'd gone past the problem. Right. Yeah. If I look at in my early 20s when I was an activist and battling the system and doing all that stuff, like, yeah, there were problems, dude. They were cutting the old growth trees down. They were polluting, killing the endangered species. Lots of problems, dude. Problems everywhere. And I fought them and I was fighting them. And eventually it overwhelmed me to the point where there were no more problems. There was just insert drugs and alcohol, which were the solution to the problems, right? The solution to the problems. And if I look at it, I think towards the end, and this is pretty standard stories, they just no longer worked anymore. I think if they still worked, I might still be out there. If I could have gotten the combination right, man, if I could have just mixed this with that and felt and been even in my lack of caring, I think I'd probably still be out there, but I couldn't, dude. That was the problem, was the constant imbalance of the mixture, right? I remember at the end, I had to drink so much beer, right? It just couldn't get me there, and it just weighted me down. And then if I got hard liquor, it went too quick. I didn't get to enjoy the ride. I was just hammered all of a sudden. And I used to hang out with a buddy of mine, the Grimmer. And the Grimmer used to be like, dude, you're epic to hang out with till like the fourth beer. And then we never know. We never know which way you're going, dude. You're either like mellow, good times, or you've got this slightly edgy sort of traveler vibe. Because that was the thing, like the happy-go-lucky loaded dude was all right. It was the other one was this sort of angry but seeking sort of thing, like trying to get to some sort of somewhere. And I was thinking about this. I'm going to get back to this in a minute. So but I was thinking about something. And I just couldn't get the combination right, dude. And I remember towards at the end, like my sort of weird solution was those Sparks, like caffeinated alcohol things, dude. Sparks, they look like a battery. Those kind of worked for me. Those got me going. And then after that, I could do, but I remember the weed turned on me towards the end. Like I couldn't smoke the weed. I used to roll around with this paper bag full of leaf and just roll big old twisters of leaf, because I was hanging out with the dude who had a like grow operation. So I didn't want any of the buds. I just wanted the leaf, dude. Cause the bud would, it just was too weird. At the end, the weed had turned on me, and the cocaine was pretty even. Like I didn't have a real like issue with that. I could come and go with that one. That one didn't have its grips on me like the alcohol. The alcohol was like a daily. And like I said, I would just sit in the like beer aisle and try to figure out what was the combo. Like, what was the combo? And what I could afford and whatever. But so getting to the point was like, because I didn't have any problem. I didn't even know I needed to get sober, dude. And then I got sober. Medicine is removed. I got a lot of problems all of a sudden, man. And I think that's the first part of like the hard part about the early phase of sobriety is learning how to have problems, man. Thank you, Orchard. Is learning how to have problems, man, is kind of the thing that you got to deal with once you've sort of stabilized into sobriety, man. Is like, oh, like, how do I deal with problems, man? And because like all of a sudden, like, it's interesting, like the first phase of getting sober is like, I'm just not going to drink or use no matter what, and go to a lot of meetings and drink a lot of coffee and smoke a lot of cigarettes and just try to maintain that, dude, without getting hammered or doing anything too crazy. And then like after the first year, it's pretty much, once you've gone around the sun once and you're not drugging and you're doing the work, you realize that like life's got a lot of problems, dude. Like a lot of problems, dude. And it's not the outside world. It's all just how you deal with your own problems, dude. I mean, one of the things I remember is like, this is how crazy it was, like my second year of sobriety, because I was working a bunch. I was stacking cash. I remember I was stacking cash to the point of like I would buy power tools because I was doing carpentry and stuff. I was finally getting paid a bunch, dude, because I wasn't like, I didn't, when I was loaded, I was working for a dude who was taking advantage of me, like financially. So when I got sober, I was making way more and I wasn't spending money on drugs and alcohol. So I would buy like power tools and keep them in the box, because I didn't need them, because there was always power tools because I was working for this dude who just was tooled up at his jobs at the job site, dude. I was working for this rad dude by then. So I would just buy power tools in the box and I would stock them in my little studio I had rented. And I just had boxes of unopened tools, dude, that I would just buy, dude, because I could, and I knew I'd need them eventually. Some of them I'm still using. But I remember I was on the phone and YouTube had hit, and I was making that was the golden era of YouTube. I was making a bunch of money. I was getting like my online presence was going viral and all that stuff. The bowl cut thing had hit, and the Thrasher stuff was going. I was getting boxes of clothes like every other day. It was like, I was in abundance, right? And I remember I called up my spiritual advisor, Joe, and I was like, sitting in my little apartment, and it's right in the early videos, dude. I think it's right around the time I'm making that video taking TVs apart, dude, or something, dude, whatever. And I remember sitting there talking to my advisor, my spiritual advisor, and I'm like, Joe, I just need $10,000, dude, to make this thing happen. I just need 10 grand to make it happen. And he's like, oh yeah, like where I had to launch, because I was going to buy a bunch of equipment and do whatever it was I was doing, because I was realizing my line wasn't carpentry, it was something else. And so I'm on the phone with this dude, and I got all these problems, and $10,000 is going to solve my problems. And I remember telling him, and as I'm telling him I need $10,000 to solve my problems, I'm looking up at my closet full of boxed up tools, and I'm looking at a shoebox up there. And I know that I have, as I'm talking to him, I realize I have like well over $15,000 just stashed out in a shoebox in my closet. And I'm listening to this dude I'm listening to myself tell my spiritual advisor, like, $10,000 is going to solve my problems. And I'm looking at $15,000 in a shoebox as I'm saying this. And I'm having this spiritual moment where because back then I was really focused on observing the conversations that I'm having from my internal spiritual self. And I'm watching this insane juxtaposition go on from within my spiritual self of me watching a box with $15,000, telling a dude $10,000 is going to solve all my problems. And that's when the light went on in my head. Like a light went on in my head where I was like, that's not my problem. And that's not my solution. So what is my problem? And at that stage of the thing, I think that's where I realized like I didn't even have a grasp on what my real problem was or problems were. And I had no idea what the solution to my problems were because I didn't even know what my problems were. Because I couldn't, at that moment, I couldn't really because he was like, so what are you going to do with the 10 grand that's so important? And I was already knew, I didn't know. I was just sitting there like, so I got to have something like that. Like, and what were my problems back then? They were all like deep problems. They were like isolation, loneliness, dude. All these kind of problems. They weren't at that point, they weren't like paying my bills, dude. That was all fine. I had a little place to live. That wasn't my problem. It was just the fact I was sober and alive and kind of killing it at the time. And I didn't have any problems, but I had a lot of problems, if you understand what I'm saying, dude. And what I'm getting at is that was one of those like moments where I had to like dig deep and go, what is, and to cut to the chase, the problem that I didn't know that I had at that time was I didn't know how to deal with the person in the mirror. I talk about it a lot on my other videos and stuff is that's when I confronted the duality of who I am, the real work. I had to learn to be with, because it was the thing where I was just in my little world I'd created in sobriety, but I was like alone in it. You know, I didn't go hang out with the boys and go surfing and do all that stuff, but I didn't have any like meaningful relationships in my life, or, you know, I didn't have a girlfriend or anything. I was just sitting in there making YouTube videos, going to work, being sober, dude. But I had yet to learn to be at peace with myself. See, my problem up at that phase through most of my life was I didn't know how to deal with me. I didn't know how to sit with me and just be with me, dude, and be like, okay to be me with all of my problems and non-problems at the same time, deal with all my crazy perceptions and the whole thing. And so that was where the journey of dealing, like one of the first phases of my journey into sobriety, where I had to go on a journey again to learn, which was sitting there. So I sat there with myself for, I don't know, a year. You know, life happened, ran for city council. I did all that kind of stuff. I ended up being a caretaker to my bro who was suffering from bipolar issues. And then I started doing the art, and, you know, but I went through this period where I learned to be with myself. I learned to just be with myself and all my insanity, and really began to observe that all my problems in life were based upon my perception of those problems. And I was doing a lot of realizing that I couldn't, like, especially like financial stuff. I realized that all the stuff that I'd ever worried about before had all worked itself out, and everything I'd ever worried about in my whole life had worked itself out in some way or another, to the point where I was at that time like 42, sober, stacking tools in my closet with a shoebox full of dough. And I realized that everything that I had ever thought was a problem, I had overcome. And it gave me the ability to realize that it was simply my perception of where I am in time and space versus whatever's going on in my life that determines what is going on with the solution to my problem. And it's I talked about it a lot. Was it the other week I was talking about the dude in the firing squad? Was it last week, dude? Yeah, forgiveness of self is a rough step. And it's funny, so the other day I was talking to my wife about we were driving back from, we've been going down to LA like to try to round up some business pretty every 3 to 5 days. We've been down there like 3 times in the last 3 weeks. But we were driving back last Friday. And we were talking, and I was like, man, we were talking about someone we knew, and I was like, that dude hangs out with, I've known this guy a long time. And I go, he hangs out with some other dudes. And I got, these dudes and basically the story was that like, I was like hammered at this party where they'd rented a bus, and we had like some venue on Sunset. I want to say it was like the Whiskey or something. There was some big thing going where we had a bus, and we went to the show, and it was like, like hundreds of us, dude. And we had like this party bus. I got out of control. And I remember there was this dude who's son of somebody and his buddy. And I remember standing on Sunset Boulevard, hammered, talking to these dudes and like begging them to help me get sober, dude. Like being like, dude, I just want to get sober. You guys are sober, dude. I need to get sober. This and not really knowing, not having any idea. Like, again, just clueless, but knowing that where I was at with where I was at, I didn't want to be there anymore. And I remember asking these dudes for help, and they didn't help me out, man. They didn't show up. These were supposedly like, I don't want to say they were friends, acquaintances of mine, dude, but they were sober dudes. See, I didn't know the sober code back then. And I was asking these dudes for help. And years later, like I was even talking about it, I was like, those dudes, they didn't help me out, man. And from that moment on, I think I still had like three more years left in the barrel, dude, of gnarliness, dude. And I think about that, right? Like, I think about like the struggle towards the end of being hammered and not wanting to be hammered anymore. And being like, dude, like, and not having any ability to get out of it. Asking, I just think about the end of the story. And again, it wasn't coming from a problem motivated space. It wasn't like, oh my God, like my life's a disaster, which it was, but it wasn't at the same time. Like I said, in the world, because I'm a surfer and I was living in a surfer's world, like to a certain element of the surfing world, that I was living the dream, dude. Just surfing and going up to Big Sur and just surfing around and whatever. But behind the scenes, I was just drinking and horrified. But again, I wasn't deep into like it was a problem. I was more like I would get hammered enough to get to that place where I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. Like this, I know better. Like I used to drink myself sober, if that makes any sense. I know it doesn't, because it's sort of contradictory. But I used to like drink myself to the point where I would be very clear in my head about that I didn't want to be drinking and drugging anymore. And that went on for a while, and I used to write a bunch back in the time. All my stuff burned up in the fire, so I can't go back and look at it, but I used to write a lot about it, and it was always this weird place where, like, I was very clear that I didn't want to, that I didn't, I was very clear that I didn't want to be drinking anymore. I don't think I wanted to stop doing drugs though. Cause like the drugs thing was interesting because like I kept that very even. Like that was even towards the end, like if you go to my sobriety date is 10/1/10, it's 1/01/2010, right? By 01/01/10 is my sobriety date. And because when I got sober with the on the alcohol, but I didn't know that I had a problem with drugs. Because see, the drugs to me, like I kept them super like regulated and I was never a dude to like Jones. Like I could score my blow and whatever. And I didn't call back like later and be like, I'm out, I need some more. I was never that dude. I was like the dude who's like, finish up what you got tonight. Don't save any for tomorrow kind of guy. Just do it up, dude. I wasn't like, I didn't think I had a drug problem. And then I got sober and, the last thing I did was the last drug to not work was New Year's Eve doing a little snoochie boochie. Because I didn't want to drink anymore. I knew that. The weed had already turned on me. But it was the final thing. If I remember sitting in Beverly Hills with my buddy, parking cars, and it was weird. In New Year's Eve of 2010, I mean, I guess it's New Year's Eve at the end of 9, going into 10. It was like it was like the coldest night on record in 20 years, dude. It might still be like the coldest night in LA and I remember we were out parking cars. It was for my buddy's mom. And I remember sitting out there in the cold, just snoochie boochied. He was drinking a beer. I didn't want any beer. I was done with the alcohol. And I remember sitting there and just being like, so this doesn't work either. And I was like, damn, man. Darn it. This doesn't work either. And that's when I kind of had to do some deep diving on that thing. And I realized that like my addiction with drugs was very scientific, but it was still addiction. Like I was very much like very regimented about it all, which is I think the danger that we find ourselves in as alcoholics and addicts and whatnot is I was totally managing the drugs, but it was unmanageable. Like I just couldn't see it clearly. And it's that thing, dude. Like when I think about it. And so like that's where I guess to circle all the way back about this thing that I'm going on about is so I was sitting in traffic with these people the other day, and I was just super, listen, I'm not a passive dude that's sitting in traffic. I'm a combat driver, dude. So don't think there's anything mellow going on, dude. But I'm not screaming and yelling. I'm just, I'm in it to win it. Put it that way, dude. But I'm not tripping. I'm not defeated and I'm not angry about it. I'm just like in it to win it, dude. I know how to play the game. And, but I was looking at people sitting in their cars, they're not angry and they're not in it to win it. They're just there. And I was like, that's a problem to me. 'cause I as an alcoholic can't live like that, dude. Like, I can't live some sort of passive existence. Like, it's just not who I am. But without sobriety, I don't know how to deal with this crazy world without being loaded. You get what I'm saying? Like, because I can't do the, like, just hang out, and I've never been that guy. I can't just hang out and microwave Big Macs and watch football on Sunday and whatever, or just have a Leave It to Beaver life with the white picket fence in suburbia and just be that guy. I mean, so I look at it and I go, it's tough for a dude like me because I gotta like be able to like I gotta be able to not be at war with the whole thing and yet be in total rebellion against the thing, if that makes any sense. Like when I was loaded, I was at war. I was at war, man, which meant because I didn't have any problems. Again, that like, thank you, Progressive Jeff. Is what I'm getting at is like when you're in a state of like permanent combat with all the passengers on spaceship Earth, you're not really that concerned about a lot of things. You're just angry and at war. Like I'm in full rebellion against the thing. And what I guess I'm getting at is I've learned that my rebellion is not to be angry about the problems or passive about the problems at the same time, right? Is to actually like smoke the problems, dude, and be like, okay, like this is the gift. And it's super hard to do. Like, let me tell you, dude, it's super hard to do, to be like, view the problem as a gift. And I think like if I go into the thing and again, it's like talking that serious, so my life got complicated, right? I all of a sudden I had like, I was living with my soon to be wife and my soon to be daughter who's my stepdaughter, and we were living up on Rainbow Mountain. I had yet to have Owl, and I remember like life was becoming very complicated, if you will. It wasn't the happy-go-lucky days of early sobriety of drawing circles with Sharpie pens and flying down to Chile or going over to London or Indonesia or any of that stuff. Life was getting complicated. And I remember like I would get into these like states of financial fear, and I would be like, because you got to remember up till that point, like I had never, because I went from just being like no nothing alcoholic guy, like whatever, like keep life simple guy, to getting sober, becoming a YouTube guy, killing it in the carpentry game, stacking cash, the whole thing, to all of a sudden being involved with a domestic situation, and my resources instantly were depleted again, because now it's not just me, and sitting there and having that first moment, those first moments where I like had to, get involved with the world of actually dealing with money and bills and this and that, and I became a dude who no longer feared the mail, right? Because like now I had the mail coming. You have to understand, when I was loaded, dude, there was no mail coming my way because I didn't have any bills, dude. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like I didn't have any bills, dude. Like everything was just that simple. So life gets coming. I got bills all of a sudden. And I remember that this kind of space where I realized I wasn't going to be afraid of the mail. And I was like, okay, the mail. Like I went today to the mailbox. Like just that's all that shows up in the mail is like bills, dude. Like the days of getting boxes full of clothes are long gone, dude. Right. So I get bills in the mail, right? And a lot of them. And but back then it was like training wheels, and I would get my bills and I get them all organized, and then I keep I have my book, I have it all organized, dude, my calendar and stuff. And then I would get to these days where I would have like financial fears, and I would sit and do this exercise where I would be like, thank you, God, for giving me bills. Thank you, God, for giving me a bill. And I go, my life is expanded to the point where I have bills, and I have serious bills. And I would be like, thank you, God, for giving me bills. And I'm going to pay one of them right now because you've also given me the ability to pay a bill. And I would pay a bill. Like anytime I would get super like afraid of it all financially, I would just pay a bill. That was and I would sit and I would do this exercise of be grateful. It's like when I get like a letter from the IRS, right? I will sit there with the letter, and I will have God open the letter first. All right, God, go and open the letter first, and allow, and you go read the bill before I open it. You already know what's written on the piece of paper, and I will get ready to accept the solution that this will bring me. And I think about it now as like, it's the bills are insane, dude. Like I look at I like early sober me would be like, dude, what are you talking about, dude? Like that's insane. The amount of stuff, and I'll get terrified. Like I'll get super terrified of the whole thing. How am I going to pull this off? And then I'll sit and I will just thank God for the problem. Because the minute I do that, the minute I look at the firing squad, I get to remember that when I was loaded and out of my mind, I didn't have any problems, man. I didn't have any problems, dude. Yeah, I was miserable and at war with the world, but I did not have any problems. It's only because I've gotten sober that I have all these problems, because my life went from being an isolated, lonely dude who drank every night and did drugs and hung out with his drug friends and tried to surf and skate whenever possible and worked all the time, to a dude with a full life, man, with a full-blown life, dude. That's what I mean. I was sitting in traffic with my wife yesterday morning and my 10-year-old son in the back reading his book about, I don't know, figuring out something happened to some. He reads all these crazy like mysteries, dude, about jungle animals and so I don't know, dude. And anyway, he was in the back and we were sitting in traffic, and I was looking at all the people by themselves and all their cars just passively sitting there, and I'm in the carpool lane now. I get to be in the carpool lane, and I was just going, and we're down there because we're trying to get some business, dude. Like we're like, shit serious, dude. We're down there going to LA to try to get some business, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, thank you, God. Thank you for putting me in this situation and allowing it to be like graceful and sort of like laughing. There was this moment, like, because I had whatever, dude, but there's this moment where you're looking up. If you don't know, you don't know, but if you do know, you do know. You're looking up, there's like a hill that goes over from the valley over into LA. It's the 405 freeway, and it's like 20 lanes wide, dude, right? and 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 the 10 lanes that are going into the city are bumper to bumper creeping along up and over the hill, and it is like madness. It is, me and my wife started laughing. It's like the craziest thing you could ever, like, just the humans, man, and the cars and the whole thing. And but looking at it from a state of sobriety and being like, this is epic. I get to sit here in traffic because I'm trying to get business to pay the bills up in my farm up in the mountains. And I'm doing it with my wife and my kid. And I go, and it takes me back, and I think about like that dude who was 2 years sober, sitting on his stoop, smoking American Spirit cigarettes, going, God, if you truly loved me, you wouldn't have me being alone here. I remember sitting there saying that on countless nights, looking at the stars on my little stoop. But the beauty was I had to be alone at that time, because that was alone being sober versus alone being wasted with no problem. That was alone sober with problems, myself, versus alone sober with no problem because I wasn't there. I was out of my mind. And learning to become at peace. Like the first thing I had to do after getting sober, was learn to be with myself, dude. I highly advise that if you're getting sober, to learn to spend some time with yourself. I don't mean like an afternoon. I mean like a bunch of time with yourself. If you have that option, don't like if you're already in a family and all that kind of stuff, dude, it's different. But I mean, if you're like young or alone, like single, stay single for a while. That would be my advice. Learn to be so sober that you're like totally content with being with yourself and you don't need to be with anyone else. And when you get to that place, you only get to be there for a little bit, dude. That's the weird thing. Like there's moments I see, if I look at it the wrong way, there's moments I look at like what's going on with my life and I'm like, man, it was easy back then, dude. Oh, dude. Like that was easy, dude. Like now, like I go sit in my little white chair out in the yard, looking at the whole thing, staring at the mountains and going, God, thank you. This morning, I said, God, thank you for the journey to get through these problems that I don't know how to solve. Thank you, God, for giving me the grace to accept the journey, man. And allowing the journey to be what it is. Because you get far enough into sobriety, you're like, we're going to do it, dude. We got this, dude. And have you ever tried? Yeah, I published a novel, dude. I'm a published author, dude. And sober October. That stuff's stupid, dude. I don't know about that, dude. How about just sober today, dude? I don't know. That sober October is an abstinence thing, which isn't sobriety. I would just say that. I like it since you brought it up. I mean, do what you got to do, dude. But that's not sobriety. That's abstinence. It's abstinence October, dude. And I will tell you that stuff, that sober October is probably, if you track it down where that comes from, it probably is a marketing campaign by the alcohol companies, dude. At the end of the day, because that reeks of just, you're not gonna drink for October, dude, and then November comes and you're just shit-faced again, dude. It's if you got to take the month of October off and not drink, you're an alcoholic, man. Hate to break it to you, dude. You probably shouldn't drink in November either, dude. And abstinence is a deadly game, dude. I will tell you, abstinence is a deadly game. Sobriety, which is finding the spiritual solution that makes abstinence seem not important. You got to understand is alcohol wasn't the problem, man. I guess that's what I'm really trying to say here is the alcohol wasn't the problem. The problem was me, dude. See, when I drank the alcohol, I didn't have any problems, dude. I'm fucking hammered. Ah. No, I was the problem. I drank to get away from me. Ah. So yeah, so spend October not drinking and not working on why you drank on September 30th is I would say is a fool's errand, man, because that's what gets you into trouble is thinking that the alcohol was the problem. The alcohol's not the problem, man. That's not why we drink, dude. Sure, we have an allergy and an obsession and a spiritual malady. Yeah, I get that. But what I'm trying to say is the reason we drink, if you're like me, I don't know why other people drink. I know why I drink. Because I can't deal with this stuff, dude. I can't deal with it now, but I know God can. I know that if I go to God, I can deal with it, dude. I went on a mountain bike ride with Alden Knight, dude. I had the fear today, dude. It's the first of the month. I don't even know. I don't know how we're gonna get to the end of the month. I got the fear today. I had the fear for a moment, and I did actions, dude. I went and did actions that were sober based. I didn't abstain. I didn't sit around and not drink, dude. I sat around and sobered today. Like that's what I'm trying to say is that's like the abstinence is like the first part of getting sober. It's not sobriety. I think there's a big misconception. And again, you're talking to a dude who didn't know either, dude. On the other side of it, it's abstract. It doesn't make a lot of sense, dude, of what it is. It's yeah, you can't I can't drink again. Like I can't. I wouldn't want to because I don't get what it would do. Like I don't quite understand. It's funny. I have these moments where like I sit and I watch someone like drinking a beer. I'll look at someone. I was talking about the other day. It's like the safest aisle in the supermarket nowadays is the liquor aisle because the tweakers aren't there, dude. Right? The tweakers avoid the liquor aisle, dude. So there's no weird shit going on in the liquor aisle. It's just idiots buying, just old timers buying booze and stuff. So I'll sit and I'll watch someone like buying their thing. They know exactly what they get. They go in, they get their bottle, and I look at it and I don't quite know what it does. Like I know what my experience of decades of getting hammered are, but I don't quite know what it is. You get what I'm saying? So if I were to sit there and be like, it is an abstract thing of like when I look at it, I don't understand it. It's like Chinese to me. Like I don't understand it. I understand lo mein, I know what lo mein means. Maybe I do. Maybe I don't. I don't know, dude. But what I'm getting at is I do know that ain't going to do anything for me. That medicine, it's not going to do anything for me. It's not going to do anything I need. So it's almost completely irrelevant to me. And it's a fascinating thing because like I said, like that was never the problem. The problem was me, man. Alcohol was my solution, dude. That's what enabled me to cope. So I'll look at people and I'll be like, that dude doesn't have another way to cope. Like, I don't know what it does, but I do know that it allows people to cope with whatever it is that's going on. And it's a vicious cycle. I would just say, I like just Jay, and make one clear. Abstinence is not sobriety. I think I just got to be super clear. People throw this word around. Abstinence is not sobriety, dude. Sobriety is doing a bunch of work on yourself and getting to the point where that's what I'm trying to say here is I could, dude, in my sobriety, dude, I have helped my bros like harvest their weed. I've been at giant grows. Like sobriety is like that shit is pointless to me, dude. You get what I'm saying? Like in sobriety, I've transported hundreds of pounds of weed. Like it's irrelevant to me as a product I would consume. Like there's no, that's what I'm trying to say. I've done all the work on this. There's nothing weed could do for me. So I don't, it's not, that's what I mean is yeah. I just want to be clear, Jay. I'm not knocking what you're doing, dude. I'm just like, I think it's a very important concept is sobriety is the work that allows abstinence to take hold and become something much greater. Cause like I used to, dude, when I was living with my buddy at the end, dude, we were cooking it and eating and everything, dude. I don't even understand the weed thing, dude. As a lifetime weed smoker, dude, like I'm not against, like, listen, like on the thing is, I'm not against any of it. I'm against government weed, which almost all of it is now, dude. I'm just like at this point, dude, all you're doing is ingesting government modified chemicals into your body, dude. And that's all that it is nowadays. Is just it's all it is, dude. It's a modified chemical that you're ingesting into your body to get an altered state of consciousness that you could achieve by just sitting in a chair and staring at the horizon. You know what I mean? Yeah, weed is the ultimate. Weed hasn't, dude. You're talking to, dude. I'm an Ed Rosenthal guy. Weed hasn't been the same since Ed Rosenthal started, dude. You could go back to all that back then. You could argue that weed's been that's all CIA thing, high times and all that stuff, dude. I'm not an anti, but like I will say that there's this weird, and I made a bunch of videos about it. There's this weird thing that somehow weed is not being made by the same evil forces that produced all the other shit that's fucking everybody up, dude. A lot of people think it's medicine. I again is I don't. Medicine is medicine, dude. I again as I don't. I think there's a distinction of it, dude. Like I'm not a. It's. I'm not. I'm talking about. Listen, dude. I don't know, dude. I don't know, dude. All I know is don't self-delete, dude. Just whatever you do, don't self-delete yourself tonight. I know we're kind of going down into a bunny hole of something else right now. I'm just trying to say is like when you're sober, you're free. You're not tripping about it, dude. You're not looking at somebody and being like, oh my God, dude, I'm terrified of that person's like gummy bears, dude. Like you're not wondering and it's just you're free, dude. Like I don't need to add anything to my spacesuit to alter my state of consciousness, dude. My consciousness is completely psychotic anyhow, dude. It's at this point, it's about not adding stuff to my it's like avoiding sugar, dude. You want to know something that'll jack a dude like me up? It's sugar, dude. But that's another conversation. All I know is I'm staying sober till the aliens come, dude. Well, that's good, dude. Brandon Harvey. I don't know if there is any native weed anymore, dude. Although the grow dudes are sketchier than the government dudes. At least the government stuff's regulated. Sobriety is living with the curse. Abstaining is fearing it constantly. I like that. Neshoba. That is very good. I like that. Sobriety is, I'm going to write that down, dude. I like that, dude. That is good. Sobriety is living with the curse. The curse. Abstaining is fearing the curse, is fearing it constantly. I'm gonna quote you right there, dude. Eine Shoba. Good work, man. Yeah, legendary. Yeah, they've crossbred everything, man. Dude, it's all Ed Rosenthal, dude. That dude was, you know. Jack, where's Jack? Anyway, yeah, legendary quote of the day, dude. So you know, that's where I'm coming from. Like, again, it's like we all got to do what we think. Listen, at the end of the day, dude, if you got to do what you got to do not to self-delete, like that's a far better solution than self-deleting yourself right now. Because it's like, listen, stay around till tomorrow. Tomorrow we can get sober, dude, if we don't self-delete today, right? Because it ain't over till it's over, man. So, you know, this stream generally comes from a place of don't self-delete, don't end the game till it's over, don't prematurely eject yourself from the game, dude. Get through tonight, call a number, 988's the text, and to text that number, and you will get the prevention line that you'll talk to someone. Like, talk to someone. Just don't self-delete. Like whatever problem you have, it's fixable, dude. It's fixable, man. And if you want to get sober, dude, you can look up wherever you are pretty much on the planet and type in wherever you are, central office, AA, or AA meetings, wherever you are, and you'll get a list of meetings, or you'll get a phone number that'll be a central office. You just call. It's just some lunatic like me, like more than one to help you out, more than one to come to help you, dude. And listen, is the most selfish thing you can do is not ask for help. If you got a problem, you ask for help, dude. Allow someone to help you, dude. Really, it's one of the things I've learned along the way is the gift. The gift you get to give is asking someone for help, dude. It's a super powerful thing, dude. Yeah. So don't self-delete, call for help, 988, I believe is the text. And with that said, we will be back, God willing, next Wednesday for another Sober Wednesday. This is The Illusion signing off. Use the name tags, be kind to each other, and good night.